All right, welcome everybody. This is Embracing AI for Reading Instruction. And we will just let everybody get into the room quickly. Welcome.
I think they can all see it now, so.
All right. It's looking okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Lori Martin, and I'm at the Adult Learning Resource Center, which is located in the Chicago area in Illinois. And with me today, I have my colleagues Laura Sherwood and Jenny Sigrid. And we are bringing you Embracing AI for Reading Instruction. There have been a lot of really great sessions on AI here at COABE, and this is a focused look at using AI specifically for teaching reading. So our agenda for this session is to talk very briefly about some terminology so that terms that we use, everybody will understand, even if you don't have a lot of experience yet with AI. And then we'll run through some of our favorite ways to use AI for teaching the different reading components. And at the end, we will also talk briefly about safety and security concerns and how to use AI with those in mind. So to begin with, just some terminology around reading instruction itself. So a lot of the research that you'll find on adult reading instruction breaks reading down into 4 skill components: alphabetics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension strategies. Some of the K-12 or elementary ed research may refer to 5 components, or the 5 pillars of reading is a way to think about that. But for today, we're going to consider 4. So in brief, alphabetics is the area of reading skill that's concerned with understanding the sounds of the language, how they correspond to letters, word parts, syllable patterns, that kind of thing. So that's all wrapped up in alphabetics. Fluency. Yes.
Lori, could you move the Zoom toolbar up on your screen?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Blocking.
It was. It looks okay now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
So alphabetics, all of the sound and symbol relationships. Fluency for reading is all about being able to read accurately, smoothly, with good phrasing, phrasing that supports the meaning of the print on the page, as well as quickly. And we're not talking about speed reading here. We're just talking about being able to read quickly enough that what you have read stays in your working memory and doesn't drop out before you get to the end of a sentence, for example. Vocabulary, I think, would be clear to everybody, recognizing word meanings. And then comprehension strategies are those strategies that we're all familiar with, that readers employ to understand, main ideas and details, or to draw inferences, make predictions, summarize, that kind of thing. So through today's session, we're going to look at each of these reading component skills and how AI might be used as a way to support your instruction on each of those. Before we get to that, let's look at some helpful AI terminology. Chatbot being our first term. So a chatbot is a computer program that simulates human conversation with users. So when we talk about having a chat or sending a message to a chatbot, we are communicating with this computer program. okay? LLM. So an LLM is a large language model, and this is a type of AI model that's trained on massive amounts of text data. And that allows it to understand and generate human-like text, perform tasks like translation, answer questions, create different creative text formats, generate new texts from language. And so this is what we mean when we're talking about ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude AI. Today I heard about an LLM I wasn't familiar with called Grok. That's apparently the Elon Musk version of LLM. There are others out there as well. And then our last special term for today is prompt. And a prompt is the question or the statement, the command that you give to an AI system, to a chatbot, in order to get a specific response. And we're going to be giving you examples of prompts through this session as we go. So we're going to dive right into reading instruction, starting with the reading component skill of alphabetics. And if you remember, alphabetics is helping our readers, our new readers, understand the relationships between the sounds of the language, the letters used to represent them. It can also include kind of higher level alphabetic skills, which would be like understanding word parts, like prefixes, suffixes, bases, syllable patterns, that kind of thing for decoding and encoding words. So the first concept that we wanted to share out or maybe remind you of is that when you want to know how an AI tool, how an LLM or any other tool can help you teach something, you can ask it directly. So for example, in ChatGPT, you could type in this prompt that's in purple here in italics. How can ChatGPT help me teach phonics to my adult basic education students who read at about a 2nd or 3rd grade level? So I'm going to demonstrate how that would look if you are new to using ChatGPT or another tool. This is what it looks like. So on its website, it will give you a question. We'll say something like, what can I help you with? And you simply type in the box. So how can ChatGPT help me teach phonics to my adult basic, and even with a misspelling, it'll probably understand you. I'm going to leave that misspelling and let's see what it does. So I simply click the submit button, the little up arrow, and then ChatGPT begins to tell me how it can help me. Okay, so it doesn't automatically create all these things, but look at this list. I can help you teach phonics in several ways. Okay, look, five different ways. And then it asks if I would like a sample phonics lesson. And I could, if I wanted to, I could continue the chat by typing another question or telling it, yes, I would like to have some help with this. So look at this, a structured phonics lesson, great. Word lists and drills on specific phonics patterns like consonant, vowel, consonant, or silent E, etc. Those are standard syllable patterns, okay? Some interactive activities it could suggest. It could give me decodable texts that contain particular phonics patterns. I mean, how cool is that? So that is just a reminder for any of these reading components. You can always start by asking your LLM of choice, how can you help me teach, whatever the skill is? And then it will give you some ways, and you can ask it for the 1 or 2 or 3 that you want done. So let me go back to my slides here. So I'm going to pretend that as a teacher, I want to break multisyllabic words into syllables. So I want to give my students practice with that skill. If you're teaching students who read at an intermediate or higher level, just, generally speaking, this is probably something that they may benefit from some instruction on. So you can use your LLM of choice. So maybe ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude is another one that we like a lot. And you can prompt it to produce a lesson plan for you, specifically to break multisyllabic words into syllables. And to do that, you can enter a prompt like what you see here in purple. I teach reading to adults who read at a whatever grade level. You want to give it information about who your students are and then what you want it to do. Please give me a lesson plan, specifically to teach my students to break multisyllabic words into syllables. So I'm going to go back out here to ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask it, yeah, this one. All right. So I had previously typed this. I just pasted it in. I want to work on decoding these multisyllabic words, okay, using common word parts. I want to focus on syllables that follow a particular pattern, because as a teacher, I've decided I'm not going to teach all the syllable patterns at once today, but I want to concentrate on 2 of them, and I want a lesson plan. So again, I hit my submit button. ChatGPT goes to work for me. Such a good employee, always responsive, never complaining. And here is my lesson plan. So it starts out with an objective, okay, the same objective that I put in my prompt, gives me a materials list, warm-up activity, some direct instruction. Okay, that's great because that is how I like to deliver reading instruction. I like to use a direct and explicit instructional approach. Gives me some guided practice, independent practice, some wrap-up, gives me a follow-up lesson, okay? A 3rd lesson, it really went to town, all right? And down here at the bottom, I want to point out a really cool, I think fairly new feature of ChatGPT, and that is what it calls its canvas. So I've scrolled all the way to the bottom of this lesson plan sequence that it gave me. And I have a series of icons down here. And this one that looks like a little pencil with a plus next to it, when I hover over it, it tells me edit in Canvas. And when I open that up, there is this Canvas view now in ChatGPT. And you'll notice that over here on the left, in the kind of gray area, I have the actual chat that I've been having with ChatGPT. So here's the first prompt that I put in and its response, and then here's the second prompt that I just put in, and then its huge lesson sequence. So all of that is still here on the left. But here in the middle is the lesson plan sequence. And this is the super cool thing. I can actually go in here and I can edit this myself right here in ChatGPT. And I could also, if I ask ChatGPT to modify the lesson plan, its modification will appear here directly in the canvas without adding it to the end and creating, you know, a super long response, it will reconstruct the lesson plans with my requested modifications right here in Canvas. So it becomes a collaborative area for me to work directly with ChatGPT and then have this lovely lesson plan or text or, you know, whatever ChatGPT has generated. So I wanted to point that out to you. And then, okay, so this is what I just put into ChatGPT. We're going to be posting these slides in the Whova system following this presentation, and you'll have links to the chat and to the Canvas that that this prompt created. And so now I will turn this over to my colleague Laura Sherwood, who will talk about using AI for fluency.
Yeah, and Lori, as Laura gets started, we do have a question in the Q&A.
Great.
How much time do you spend reviewing and revising the content AI gives you?
Ooh, the the answer to that is it depends. Okay. Definitely, you know, depending on how well your prompt produced what you wanted. You know, if your prompt was really clear and you got what you wanted the first time around, you might not have to spend much or any time at all revising or adapting. If your prompt was, I don't want to make it sound like your prompt, you know, maybe was defective in some way, but if what you asked for didn't result in what you actually had in mind, then you could go back to the drawing board completely, or you could spend some time with ChatGPT asking it to make revisions. So it just kind of depends on what you put in and what you got out and how that compares to what you really had in mind.
Yeah, and Lori, I would add to that I would check for accuracy depending on what it is you're asking for and what subject you're working on. For example, math, I would always check to make sure that it's giving you the right answer, because I've had it give me the wrong answer and give what they call hallucinations. So yeah, I would never just copy something and paste it into a lesson that I would then post in my virtual class. I would never do that. You have to review first before you use it with your students. So yeah, that was a good question, Audrey. All right, so let's go into the next reading component and see how AI can help us with fluency. It really is an amazing tool that is very helpful for both teachers and students in working on fluency. So, you know, in order for a student to become a fluent reader, they need to practice reading out loud. And so in order for that to happen, teachers need lots of reading passages. And sometimes that can be hard to find if you don't have classroom sets of books, if you're in a classroom, or if you're teaching virtually and you have a specific topic that you want to find a text on, you can go ahead and use one of the language learning modules to help you generate a text. And most of the AI LLMs will allow you to do that through a prompt. And then there are other AI tools for educators. You might be familiar with Magic School or School AI or some of the others that are available that also allow you to generate text. So you have to, in your prompt, if you want to try this, provide details to the chatbot, such as the level, the reading level. We usually do like a grade level equivalent, the length of the passage. Do you want it 100 words, 500 words? How long do you want it to be? The topic is very helpful, and then any other desired features. So I'm going to show you this afternoon an example of doing this in Claude. Lori was out in ChatGPT, so we wanted to show you Claude as well. It looks very similar. And the prompt is, please write a 300 to 350 word text about Earth Day at a 6th grade reading level for adult readers. So if I know that my students need to practice fluency at a 6th grade reading level, this is what I would look for. So I'm going to go out to Claude. Okay, and it's saying, hey, what's new, Laura? So I am going to use my clipboard because I already have the prompt set up, and I'm going to put it in there. And that's all it is. Please write a 300 to 350 word text about Earth Day at a 6th grade reading level for adult readers. And I'm going to hit enter. And let's see what it does. There it is. Earth Day, our planet's special day. And it generated a text. I'm not going to count the words, but I could put it into like Word and have it count the words, right? But it looks good. It's a good length, I think, of a passage for a 6th grade reading level. And I can go ahead and read through this. I can decide if this is what I want. I could make changes to it. I can copy it and put it into a Google Doc or into a Word doc, however I want to use it. And then I could even ask Claude to produce some comprehension questions and do some other things with it. But this is the start. If you need passages for students to practice reading out loud, this is a great way to generate reading passages. So let's go back to the slides. And so now we want to let you give it a try. I don't know how many of you have tried a chatbot at all, but we wanted to just give you a couple minutes and try this. And you can use the AI tool of your choice. You can use ChatGPT, Gemini, which is Google's AI, Claude AI, which you just saw, and then another one that I haven't even tried. Well, I did try it once, DeepSeek. Yeah, to be accurate, I did try it once. You know, you get familiar with one and then you tend to use it quite often. So I've got 2 prompts here, and the one is the same that I just used in Claude about Earth Day at a 6th grade reading level. Now, if you teach English language learners, you might want to put in the second one. Please write a 300 to 350 word text about Earth Day for intermediate level adult English learners. So I'm going to put the links into the chat here so that you can access the one of your choice. Just a minute. Okay, so those links should be coming up in the chat, and you can choose, if you choose ChatGPT or Gemini, you do not need an account for either of those. You can just go ahead and put the prompt in. But for the other ones, you do need to have an account. And then I'll go ahead and put in the prompts, so you can just copy and paste those as well, which should make it a lot easier for you. There's the one for ESL. And then here is the one for readers at a 6th grade level, like in an ABE class. So if you want to do this, if you want to copy and paste either one of those prompts into ChatGPT or Gemini, I'm going to stop talking maybe for 2 minutes and let you try it if you have not tried it yet. And Adrian, I realize that now. Yeah, ChatGPT does limit how many questions you can ask at a time. Yeah, they've put some limits on it. I hope some of you are trying this. I know we have 47 participants, which is awesome. And you do have to open another tab. If you're not familiar with that or you don't feel comfortable doing that, I'm just going to wait one more minute and then we'll go on to the next AI tool. And if you did go out to one of the chatbots, if you want to put in a response, how did it go? Were you able to do it? Just put a reply in the chat. That would be great. Just say that you tried it or you didn't. Would be great for us to know. Give it about 30 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I hope that some of you were able to do that. And again, if you want to put any feedback in the chat, we would love to see it. But I'm going to move on to the next tool, which is really something that you can set up for your students and they can use it anytime to practice their fluent reading. And this is called Microsoft Reading Coach. That's the link. And these slides will be posted on the page where you see our session. We'll go ahead and do that. So you'll have these links as well. And what you want to do is then if you have like ChatGPT or Claude develop a text for you, then you can go ahead and turn it around and cut it and paste it or copy and paste into Microsoft Reading Coach. And then your students can practice reading it out loud and get feedback. So the student will read it from their device. It could be a cell phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a computer. The reading coach evaluates the accuracy and pronunciation while guiding them through the text, which is really nice. So they get that immediate feedback. Reading coach gives them the ability then to practice on their missed words. Students can adjust the font size and the background color to make it the way they want to see it, which is better for their eyes. And students can read 1 line, 3 lines, or a whole passage at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and show you Reading Coach. And I've already logged in. You do have to set up an account for this. It's like a Microsoft app. And so it comes up to the homepage and it says, let's practice reading. So previously I was reading a passage called Early People in the Central American Land Bridge. And I could go back into that, or I could create a story using AI. So your students can do this on their own once they set up their account. It's somewhat geared towards younger kids, I think, but you know your students. And if you think they might like it, they could create a story for their children if they have kids that are learning to read too. You can select a passage from the library, and there is an incredible number of passages. So any of these you can go ahead and pick, or your students can pick it on their own time for extra practice. And it gives you the Lexile level. So you can give your students a range if you want to guide them into what passages to choose. Or you can add your own passage. And this is where I can put in, I'm going to put in the title Earth Day. And I'm going to go ahead and I didn't copy it from Claude. So I'm out on the Claude website now, and this is where it generated the text on Earth Day. And I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it right into Reading Coach. And then I click on Next. Okay, now it has taken the passage and set it up on the screen, so that I can read it, and it's going to give me feedback on my reading. So you do have to give it access to your microphone, and I'm going to go ahead and start reading. Here I go. Earth Day happens every year on April 22nd. It's a time when people all over the world come together to help our planet. The very first Earth Day was held in 1970, which means we've been celebrating it for more than 50 years. On Earth Day, people do many different things to show they care about Earth. Some plant trees or flowers to make our world more green. Others clean up trash from parks, beaches, and streets. Many schools have special lessons about nature and how we can protect it. So I'm going to stop, and then it's going to give me feedback. Oh my gosh, it's telling me I have 29% pronunciation accuracy. I think it was a little better than that, but I read for 45 seconds. And it's giving me words to practice. So these are words that I kind of fumbled or didn't say quite right. And I actually have read this passage several times before in Reading Coach, just to kind of see what it was doing for me. So that might be the total pronunciation accuracy. I'm not exactly sure. But from this point now, I can just practice the words, which is really nice. So the student can click on
Next
that.
step, practice. Select any word to keep building your skills.
And I'm hoping you could hear that, right? Good, okay. All right, so let's say I want to practice the word different. I click on that.
When you're ready, press the microphone and read the word out loud.
But first I want to listen to it.
Different.
Okay, so I heard the pronunciation. Different.
You're making your brain stronger. Nice work.
All right, so I did it. And then I click on the arrow and I can go to the next word and keep going from there. So I can practice the words that I was
These words
hesitant
were the
on.
most challenging for you.
I
Select
know,
any
thank
word to
you.
tackle them again.
All right, I'm done. I'll practice more later. So, so that is how Reading Coach works. It is free. When a student is done with one passage, they can read it again and get that accuracy up and get rid of these words that they have to practice, because if they read it correctly, then they won't be there. Or they could go ahead and choose something else, which takes us back to the home page. And then you can also click on my progress, and it tells me what my total reading time is, how many readings I've completed. There's average accuracy, correct words per minute. So it gives lots of information for the student, and then the teacher can take a look too when the student is in class. Okay, so that is Reading Coach, an online fluency coach. It's used a lot in K through 12, but it can also be used in adult ed with our adult learners. Now, another one is called Natural Reader. And Natural Reader is a little bit like Reading Coach. You get to hear the passage being read. So like back in the day when I first started in literacy, we used one of those little cassette recorders and we recorded ourselves. I was a tutor and we would record ourselves. And then we would give the tape to the student and let them borrow a cassette recorder and they could hear me read. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. Those are all in the antique shops now, I think, those little cassette recorders. But Natural Reader takes its place. And so for a student to be able to hear a passage read out loud when you aren't there, Natural Reader will do text to speech. You can choose the AI voices, so they can choose a man or a woman or someone with an English accent. The teacher can paste in the text and view while listening, and you can show the student how to do that too. It is available as a Chrome extension, and there is a mobile app available as well. So I'm going to go out to Natural Reader. This is the home page. You do have to sign in. It is free. You can upgrade, of course. I think most of these will allow you to do some things free, and then if you want more, you have to pay for it. So here is, I already put in a passage on Earth Day. This was generated, that should not be there. Let me get that out. I don't know why that happened. But this is the passage that I had already pasted in. And here I have my person that I selected to read. I can also adjust the time. So we're going to let you hear her read this passage. Oh no, oh no. I guess you only get a 5-minute daily limit. Darn it, I did that already. Let's see, it says continue using free
Earth Day,
voices. So let me,
caring
there we
for
go.
our planet. Earth Day is a special day when people around the world work together to help our planet. It happens every year on April 22nd. On this day, we think about how to keep Earth clean and healthy. Our Earth gives us everything we need: air to breathe, water to drink, food to eat, and a place to live. But sometimes people don't take good care of our planet. But
Okay,
sometimes people don't take good care of our planet.
I'm going to stop it. What I wanted to show you is if you adjust the speed, it even tells you how many words per minute. So if you wanted your students to reach a specific speed, you could do that. Let me click on this. So there's David, Mark, and Zira. There are 3. Before I got into this, I was playing around with it, and I apologize because Adam was hot. And I really wanted you to hear him if you want a male voice. Derek was hot. Evelyn was hot. I think that just means a lot of people chose them. But if you could look all the way down to the bottom, you can clone your own AI voice. So it will record you reading, and then your students could hear you read the text. If you have a premium version, you get different speakers. And let's see, on Plus, let me go to Plus. If I click on this arrow, I can choose different languages, which I think is really, really neat also. So your students could hear it in Spanish if it was a Spanish text, or they could hear it in English, whatever they wanted to do. So this is just a way for the students to hear the passage out loud, and then they could do some choral reading with it, read along with Derek or whoever is reading the text. All right, so that is Natural Reader. And then one other thing we want to show you for fluency, because this is really fun. This is a nice way for your students to practice fluency, and that is through Reader's Theater. Now, if you're not familiar with Reader's Theater, it's not a play, but it's a script. They're not acting it out. They don't have to memorize any lines. They're just reading the script and taking turns practicing their reading. So again, you can have an LLM and a prompt to put into the chatbot to write a Reader's Theater script, and it will do it, almost immediately, which is really nice. So here is an example prompt, and I will try this then in Gemini. I'll go out to Gemini to show you that. So this prompt says, can you write a Reader's Theater script for 6 characters, for 6 students, that would take my adult education class about 20 minutes to read. The setting and topic should be appropriate for adults, not children. I need something at a 5th to 6th grade reading level. So let me see, let me go out to Gemini. This is the Gemini screen. They all look very similar when they first start out. And I need to see something here. Hold on a second. No, it's not doing it. I'm not sure if I have this prompt. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so here's the prompt. Can you write a Reader's Theater script for 6 characters? And it continues on because I just copied it from my clipboard. So I'm going to hit enter. You can see the whole prompt there. And then I did not specify a topic, so it chose the topic, the overbooked calendar. That might be appropriate for adult ed students. It shows the characters, the setting, and then it's got the script. And so the students would practice this and do it several times to improve their fluency. So again, I would read through all of this before I copied it and pasted it and printed it out or put it on a screen for my students to read. I would want to make sure that it was good and it was what I wanted. So it's quite a nice size. We said about 20 minutes. It might take less than that, but you can always adjust and give it another prompt to ask for more or to make it shorter. So that is using AI for fluency practice for
Laura,
both students and teachers. Yes,
if I can just jump in here, when
sure.
when you and I were talking as we were developing this session, we both agreed that reader's theater is a really great way to practice reading fluency, and it's fun for students. It's engaging. It's
Yeah.
a use of you know, language in kind of an authentic context, that type of thing. But before AI, it was really hard to find reader's theater scripts.
Yes, it was.
You know, and you know, you could find scripts that were like skits for children to do, and or
Right.
topics that weren't really appropriate for your adult learners, or the level was too high or too low, or you know, whatever. And AI is such a great tool to use for scripts. We were so excited when we ran this through Gemini. We tried it in
Yeah.
ChatGPT. I'm sure the other LLMs would do just as good of a job. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was very hard to find scripts. And Carrie, and I was going to say, Carrie in the chat, she says, in AI lingo, I wonder if something for adults, not children, could give you a racy result. I have not found that to be the
No.
case. I can't say that it wouldn't ever, but I don't think so. I don't think that it would do that, but that's, you know, that's another good reason to really read what it's produced before you decide to copy it onto a, you know, Word doc, print it out and give it to your students. Always check the results. So,
and I think
okay.
also because we put into the prompt that we're like teaching an adult education class. The
Yeah.
AI chatbot nowadays does seem to recognize pretty well what that means.
Yeah,
So
it seems like it. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah. All right. So now we're going to go, I'm going to stop sharing. Lori will continue on with vocabulary. Lori, you're muted.
thank you, Laura. Okay. There are many, many ways that these AI tools can help you produce all kinds of things for your vocabulary instruction. But we wanted to take this back to asking ourselves, you know, how can AI help us actually select the words that we want to spend time on? Because that's often the beginning dilemma for teachers. You know, our students, especially if you're teaching English language learners, there are so many words to learn and so little time. Which words are really worth spending time on? And we came across some really expert advice from Elfrieda Hebert, or as she goes by Freddie Hebert. And she has a website called Text Project. If you download our slides after the session, you'll have links to all of this. And her advice is quoted here on the screen. We must choose words that convey central ideas in the current text and potentially in future texts. So I'm sure all of you, wind up teaching some words that are specific to a particular text that you're reading. They're content words. But we also need to spend time with the so-called academic or tier 2 words that students are going to encounter as they read other texts. So we ask ourselves 3 questions, as we're selecting what words to even teach. Is the word useful? Will students encounter it often? Okay. And is it necessary for the comprehension of this text, the text that they're going to be reading right at that moment? And other texts that they'll read in the future, not only here in class, but also outside of class, in their workplace or out, in the community. So Freddie Hebert, this vocabulary researcher and expert that I just mentioned, developed some prompt guidelines, and this is her sequence of prompts, and we think it works pretty well. So we take a text and we put it into our LLM. So for example, in ChatGPT, we paste in our text and then we give it a series of prompts. We ask it to list the academic or tier 2 words from the text that we just pasted in. And then we ask it to identify which of those words would be challenging for our students, but that are also at the same time words that will extend beyond just that text to other texts that our students are likely to read. And we prompt the chatbot by telling them that we're looking for the most useful and frequently used words from that list. And then we ask it to reduce it down to just a certain number of keywords. And I mean, in this example, we've chosen 10. 10 is not a magic number, but there you would have it. So I'm going to show you an example. I'm not going to go out and do this live on ChatGPT, but we put in, sorry, because I did have this up at the top earlier. Okay, so we generated a text on Earth Day. Okay, so you just saw what Laura generated in Claude about Earth Day. So we went to ChatGPT and we said, please list the academic or tier 2 words from this text. And then we pasted in the text. So this that I'm highlighting here is the text that Laura generated in the Claude AI. So we just pasted it in there, okay? And then ChatGPT responded, said, here are the tier 2 academic words from the text. But look at how many words there are. So it's more words than I want to deal with teaching in my class. So now I want to cull it down. So these words, ChatGPT tells me that these words that it just gave me are not highly specialized, which would be more like what we call tier 3 words, but they are commonly used across different subject areas. But I go back and I ask it, can you help me identify which of these words would be challenging for adult ed students, but are also words that will extend beyond this text? Okay, so I'm giving it that number 2 prompt. And then ChatGPT, it's always so encouraging, right? It says, great approach. Oh, yay, Lori, yeah. You want words that are both challenging and broadly useful based on frequency and utility in academic and everyday reading. The most valuable words from your list are, and then it gives me these 8 words, okay? And it tells me these words will support my students' reading comprehension. And then it asks me, would I like any vocabulary building activities for these words? Ooh, doesn't that sound tempting? So I'd said, yes, why not? Please provide 2 separate vocabulary building activities for this set of words. Okie doke. So it gives me what it calls 2 engaging activities. So one is going to be some word connections, and it gives me, instructions as the teachers, tells me to pair up my students and give them some sentence stems. I really like these. They're open-ended. They're going to give my students a chance to practice these new word meanings in many contexts that could even be personal to them. So, for example, this prompt right here. I like to participate in blah, 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 because, they'll be talking about their own interests here. Or one action I can take to help the earth. It's terrific. It gives me a second activity, a scavenger hunt. Okay, outside of the class, or maybe using materials that I have around in the class, the students are going to look for these words. Okay, I would normally do this as an outside of class activity. So it was very responsive. It did help me select words. I didn't have to go through and ask myself, wow, this is a fairly long text. Should I teach the word special? Should I teach the word protecting? Should I teach festivals? Which of these words? It told me which ones are going to take my students the furthest. Okay, so very helpful for doing that. And let me just move my bar back up. I also wanted to show you another tool just in case you're not familiar with it, and that is Magic School AI. So Magic School AI is a tool that is developed for teachers. It was developed first for K-12 teachers, but certainly adult education instructors can find a lot of use on it. And what it does is it gives you lots of different kind of pre-made ways to use AI to develop worksheets or lesson plans or other kinds of materials for your classes. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. It is free. Well, it has a free and a paid version, but the free version is very sophisticated. I mean, you can do a lot with it. I don't think there's really any need to go for the paid version. So this is the home page. I got myself a free account, and I'm just going to scroll a little bit to show you each of these tiles on here is a different thing that Magic School AI can do for you. So it can generate, for example, a lesson plan, can make a worksheet for you. It can rewrite a text with custom criteria that you give it. It can give you a multiple choice, produce a multiple choice quiz for you, create an email. It has a translator in here. Here we go, text translator. Lots and lots of things that a lot of teachers want to be able to do quickly. You put in a few specifications and Magic School goes about making it for you. So I'm going to go, I've already chosen vocabulary-based text as one of my favorite things to use in here. So it's appearing up here in my favorites list. And I'm just going to show you quickly how this works, how super simple it is. Okay, so it gives me, Magic School AI asks me for certain information, and that's all I have to do. I don't have to put in the whole prompt for the AI chatbot. it's already kind of built into Magic School AI. So first, I have to select a grade level. So we are dealing with adult education here. I'm going to approximate a grade level, and I am going to just choose 6th grade, kind of randomly for the moment for the example. It wants to know what length of text I want, a paragraph, a page, 2 pages. I'm going to ask for 1 page, okay? It asks what vocabulary I want to include. So I'm going to type in some of my vocabulary words. Obtain, let's see, frequent. These are academic words. Significant, alternative. Okay, there's some words I've been working on with my students. Those are what I want included in the text it's going to generate. Now, the topic, what topic do I want? Today I want the history of April Fool's Day. But gotta spell it right. Fool's Day. Okay, history of April Fool's Day. Why not? Because today is April Fool's Day. And then just simply generate. Boom. Okay, and here we go. Okay, I'm just enlarge my screen a little bit so you can maybe read it a little better. It has generated a 1-page text that uses my vocabulary words. So my students can get practice encountering these vocabulary words in texts on different topics, different subjects. So here we go. Here's the word feature. Here's the word feature in the text in an appropriate form of that word. Okay. And it actually is, it's an accurate text, gives true history. Okay. I can ask it to read the text aloud. So that's kind of nice. It has very good voice.
The history of April Fool's Day, vocabulary words included: obtain, feature, consistent, significant, alternative. April Fool's Day is celebrated every year on April 1st, and it features pranks and jokes that can surprise people.
Okay.
The origins of this fun holiday are not entirely clear, but
so not a bad reading, right? And then if I want to, I can get it to create some other activities or, whatever I want. So Magic School AI has many, many other things. This was something particular to vocabulary instruction that we liked. Our students, especially with this academic vocabulary, they do need to have many opportunities to encounter these words. And so using a tool like the vocabulary text generator in Magic School AI can be very helpful. Let me go back to my slides here. ChatGPT and Gemini, other AI tools are also very good at generating discussion and writing prompts that can give your students practice using different vocabulary. So for example, you have a prompt here, I want my students to practice using this vocabulary orally and in writing. Give me 2 questions for each word. And I will show you, this is what ChatGPT produced for, just like a couple of my vocabulary words. So for obtain, what's something you would like to obtain? And then very nice question. The second question, can obtaining too much of something ever cause problems? These are open-ended questions that allow students to make personal connections to the meanings of these words. We really liked how AI produced these questions. So that is it for vocabulary. Let me just check the chat. That's okay. All right. So I'm going to stop, and Jenny is going to take us to comprehension.
Yay. All right. So we have already seen lots of ways that generative AI can help us with other aspects of reading like fluency and vocabulary. And while we were generating those texts for fluency and vocabulary, you might have been thinking, ooh, I can also use this for comprehension. And of course, you would be correct. The way that I use generative AI for my own class and my own teaching is to generate tests or generate reading texts for my students to practice comprehension. And what I use the most frequently is I have ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever tool I like. I will say Gemini gets me the best. So that's the one I find myself using the most frequently. But I love using it to generate practice questions for standardized reading tests that many of our students have to take. So I try to mimic the format of the CASAS or the TABE tests, or even the GED and HiSET tests, to generate the kind of questions that my students will encounter when they take those tests. So you can take any text that you have, one that you have a PDF of, you can upload it, or you can even have the AI generate a text for you, and then take it a step further and ask it to generate some questions for you. So again, since I use this for test prep, I will ask the chatbot to give me specific kinds of multiple choice questions, and I usually specify 4 answer multiple choice questions because my program uses CASAS, and CASAS always has 4 answer choices. The prompt we have as an example for you is, can you give me 3 multiple choice questions about the main idea or the important details or the author's purpose and so on from this text? Now, my own personal tip for you, something that I've learned from my own experience, is I usually ask the chatbot to generate about twice as many questions as I actually want. And the reason is because the chatbot is not always super duper great at creating comprehension questions that make sense or that actually ask about the text that it generated. So that gives me an opportunity to weed out any questions that are kind of wonky or that just don't work quite as well. So for example, a reading text that I left with my sub for my class last night because I was here, when I first generated it and generated the questions for it, it was a chart about household expenses. And I looked at the questions it had generated, and some of the questions asked about the household expense of utilities. And I took a closer look at my chart and discovered that utilities was not actually a category in the chart. It had cell phone and then it had other. And I thought that was a little bit too big of a leap for my students to make, to combine cell phone and other and say, oh, this must be how much utilities cost. So because I had asked for more questions than I needed, I was able to weed those particular questions that didn't make sense out, which, you know, that's a little tip from me to you. Ask for more than you need and you won't have to ask again. A couple other tools, and we won't take the time to show these to you, but these are tools that we have discovered and we really, really love. One tool is Diffit for Teachers. It's app.diffit.me. And they say it's easy as 1, 2, 3. You just have to enter a topic, select a grade level, and generate resources. And it really does work like that. Once you do that, it will give you a whole lesson plan with a text, with sources for the text. It has summary statements, which are really helpful for my English learners who are practicing summarizing, to see examples of summary statements and start to wrap their minds around how those work. Key vocabulary with definitions. You can have it do multiple choice comprehension questions, short answer comprehension questions, and even some discussion prompts and other open-ended prompts. So if you have an opportunity to check that out, please do. They do offer a free trial. And then I believe they have a very limited free use after your free trial ends, but don't quote me on that. Another tool that we like a lot, particularly if you teach ESOL learners, is TWE. And yes, that is just what it's called. It's TWE, app.twee.com. And you can see it has a menu. This is a screenshot of it. It has a menu with lots and lots of tools. We took a screenshot of just the tools that are specific for reading. And you can see you can create open questions from text. You can create ABCD questions. You can create a text with any topic or on any topic from your vocabulary, just like we had in Magic School that Lori demonstrated. But you can play around with these. And of course, if you do teach ESOL, there are lots of other tools that you might find interesting as well. Now, in our last few minutes, we thought we'd be remiss if we didn't address AI safety and responsibility as part of our session on AI. One thing that I really am passionate about making sure teachers understand when we're using AI, it's important to keep private information private. We did have a comment in the chat earlier about someone who mentioned that Google said that their prompt wouldn't become part of its cadre of information. But not all chatbots have that privacy up front. So when we're using a chatbot, just be aware that anything you put into it can become part of its library of language that it draws from. So we never want to share any sort of passwords or security questions. And we also want to make sure that we teach our students not to share passwords or security questions, no personal information like name, address, or phone number. I will generate texts that use my students' first names because that's a lot of fun for us, but nothing that would be personally identifying. Of course, no financial information, no medical or health data or confidential business information or customer data. And of course, we never want to share anyone's immigration status with the AI. Right. And again, you'll want to make sure to share this with your students if you do have students using AI to generate their own texts or to do other tasks in your class. And then finally, we also want to make sure you're teaching AI responsibility to students. When we do sessions on AI, we often get questions from teachers about plagiarism and how do I make sure that my students' work is their own work and not the AI's work. And part of that is something that we have to teach them. So our first step is to check your institution's AI policy for guidelines. If your institution doesn't have one, you might want to ask some questions about, is it in progress? We like to teach our students to use AI as a tool to support learning, not to replace learning, but to help them in their learning. And it's a tool that they can access both inside and outside of class. We like to design our activities to give students practice using AI ethically and responsibly. So I have been incorporating AI into my lessons more and more, just because I know that I want my students to be comfortable with it in my classroom so that if they need to use it in their life or in their job, they already have an idea of how it works. Also, and someone mentioned this in the chat earlier too, don't get banned. Most, not all, but most AI tools have features in place to prevent responding to requests for illegal advice, explicit content, hate speech, or etc. And some tools, if you do ask for these things, you will get banned from using that tool with that account. We know that this is a deep and rich topic, so I wanted to point you all to an absolutely excellent session that I attended yesterday by Vi Hawes. She did a session yesterday at 8 a.m. called Redesigning Assessments for the Age of AI. And while it was presented yesterday, it was also recorded, so you'll be able to access that through the COABE app in a couple of weeks once COABE gets all those recordings uploaded. And she did an absolutely just wonderful job addressing plagiarism and responsibility and ethics. And I do encourage you all, if you want to learn more about that, please check out her session. And with that, we've got 1 minute left to the end of our session. So if you do have any questions about teaching reading using generative AI, you can contact us anytime. I'm Jenny Siegfried with my colleagues Laura Sherwood and Lori Martin. Our email addresses are there on the screen, and we'll also be uploading these slides into Whova probably just as soon as our session is done today.
Yep, I will do that.
All right. And well, thank you all. And I see, are there any other questions in the chat that we can address? We're all AI explorers. Right. I am not seeing any additional
Mhm.
questions today.
No.
I
So
don't either.
Thanks,
thank you all.
everyone.
Thank you,
Um,
everybody.
And
Have a
Marquise,
nice evening.
that information about the other session, I did put that information on the slide, but it's called Redesigning Assessments for the Age of AI. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. All right, stopping.
Okay, bye.
Bye.